Hi YouTube, it's Catherine Michelle. This is going to be my last video, so it's going to be kind of long. Bear with me. There are a lot of things to cover. We're going to go over the latent prints and why that never really went anywhere. We're going to go over one last time the bloody footprints, and also some new information I've discovered. I will mention what is on the back here. A new list I had started comprising, but the reality is, you know, we can continue to it's on me. I can continue to tear apart this case left and right, just like a lot of other people, but it's not leading anywhere, and it won't lead anywhere. I don't want to spend my time going down every single rabbit hole. There are far too many. I mean, and everything could be a rabbit hole. You know, like the bloody footprints. That is like a major one. I mean, everybody who believes this is actually blood, you know, footprints in blood, will not and cannot explain why there's nothing leading up to and or away from these prints. They just magically appear in the middle of the floor. That's a huge rabbit hole, but this is what I'm talking about. This case is full of them. Nothing is being settled. We have the evidence, we have the proof. It has been presented to the Minnesota Attorney General, the governor. It's been presented to the Dakota County Sheriff, the City Council. It has been provided to Police Chief Wrightskull, however you say your name, Gummert, Detective Gummert. All of these people have basically told us, up yours, screw yourself, we don't give a shit, we're not opening the case. We won't reopen it, we're content with the crap we put out there, and deal with it. So if we can't get the New York Times to look at take another look at what they wrote, if we can't get the Pioneer Press to take another look at what they wrote, even though they've been presented with the facts that we have found, and no news outlet is going to touch this, so they're all basically saying, fuck you. We don't give a shit that this family was murdered. We don't care that there are 3 dead bodies. The police were lazy. Then they just said, hey, we're going to call it murder-suicide because we're covering someone else's ass. Deal with it. Well, you know what? Life is too short. I have other things to do with my time, and I'm pretty much done with it. What else can I do? I'm not going to sit here and every day back and forth and discuss, banter, or whatever over how these paranormal prints end up in the middle of the floor because people don't want to just see the evidence in front of their face. That's just one example. It's the thing that came to my mind. But anyway, I think what you're going to find, or what you're going to see on what I and some other people have put together, there have been a few people who've been working very close with me. We've done a ton of research on this. This is not something that was just come to lightly, but the case boils down to 4 people. I cannot, no matter which way I've gone, no matter which rabbit hole I followed, it all comes back to these same 4 people. Now, I can't call them murderers, but I can tell you that the evidence does not exclude them, and in fact, they are the only ones who are not excluded. Can't. It's not. Nothing that the police have given to us has excluded these people at all. And I do believe the police know this. These people have ins with the police department, and for whatever reason, and we may never know, they're choosing to cover up the acts of these people, the brutality that these people are capable of is completely overlooked, bypassed, ignored by the media, by the legal system, by the police department. And legal system, I'm talking about like the Attorney General, that legal system of the state of Minnesota. State of Minnesota doesn't care. BCA doesn't care. Hell, they're part of the bullshit that we have found in this case. The police department, which is a huge contributor to the bullshit in this case, and also these 4 people. And I call a spade a spade. I'm done. I'm not going to cover your asses anymore. It's not up to us to clear these people. But it's not even up to us. We shouldn't even be looking into this case. Apple Valley Police Department should have gotten off their lazy asses and done their damn job. The coroner, the medical examiner, not the coroner, but the medical examiners should have done better than write their crappy ass reports. I'll read what they wrote too. It's all of this stuff together. And the phone records that the police did not look into. They clearly admit they have no motive for David to commit these murders, but yet he did it. They have motive for these other 4 individuals, but no motive for David, but yet David's the culprit. Wow, and y'all get a paycheck for this. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to set things up and I'll be back. Okay, I have new paper up and here we go. Here's here's what I have put together recently. I've actually spent the last 48 hours going over this a lot. I'm going to go ahead and leave the people, the other people who have been helping doing the research on this, I'm going to leave their name out of this because I have not heard back from them as to whether or not they want to be included on this information. And if they do, they can write their comments underneath the video and state that they were the ones who were helping. So I have no problem. I'm just going to do this. Like I said, I'm done with the bullshit. So what we have right now is the Crowleys. Sorry if you can't see that. Let me try to get it closer so you guys can see what I'm writing, and it looks like it's backwards. I can't write backwards, so this is what it is. We have the Crowleys. Now, up here, and now mind you, no motive was found for David. None. He was cleared of motive. Now, the people up here who are associated with David are, I'm going to abbreviate just because I don't feel like writing all this out. We have Sean Wright. We have Danny August Mason. We have Dan Crowley Jr. And we have I'm losing the other person's name at the moment. Who is it? It'll probably come to me as I'm writing this out. But with these people, and what I was thinking, and I'm going to put Dan Sr. up here, not because I think he's part of this. Don't go there. Don't misquote me. And you people who'd like to do that, my comment is fuck off. I'm putting Dan Crowley Sr. up here for a reason, and we'll go over it later on as to why. But there is a 4th person, and I will think of it. Now, Sean Wright. What was Sean Wright's motive? He felt like he was going to go to prison for tax evasion if David had gone through with his the Rise release. That's huge. That's a huge motive. Nowhere near as big as Danny August Mason's motive. What's Danny August Mason's motive? Let's try $30 million. That's a whole lot of zeros, people. Danny refused to sign off. He ignored David in every way, shape, and form. And he somehow, obviously due to his lack of response to David and anything that had to do with, David trying to say, hey, I need you to sign off on this. And that was David being polite. For your information, Danny August Mason, he didn't need your permission. He didn't need to ask you anything. He went to you in good faith to try to get this settled so you guys, who knows, maybe could end things amicably. And he was even offering you a part where he had no right to even offer it to you, but he was still going to try to get you a part in his movie. That wasn't good enough, was it? No, you had your eye on the $30 million. Then we have Dan Jr. What's Dan Jr.'s motive? They had a huge family fight. Huge fight. Now, it was so bad that David broke ties with his family. Now, is it any of our business what this fight was about? No. But the point is when there's that big of a fight and disagreement amongst family members, it is not uncommon for death to ensue. Now, I am not saying Dan Jr. did it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he had motive. Danny August Mason had motive. Sean Wright had motive. Now, here's another interesting point. Let's throw in what I have since discovered, I and some other people. Well, I discovered it based on information, and this is known, that Sophia was able to garner, and that was the phone records. What's that information? There's a phone number that is given to a Kimberly, was it Layton? It doesn't matter, the name doesn't exist. All research on this person has yielded 0. Can't find this person anywhere. This number that is given on the phone records for David and Camille comes out of Austin, Texas, or Lampasas, Texas. Now, doing some further research, I did find that there is a Kimberly, I'll leave the last name out because there's no proof that she actually opened this account associated with Danny August Mason. This Kimberly L is also from the Austin area or Lampasas area, where this mysterious phone number that we have found on David and Camille's phone records originates from. Interesting? I think so. Because if you guys go and you look at the phone records that are put out there, it's on the Justice for David Crowley and Family page, and I'm sure Dan Hennon and Greg Fernandez Jr. have it in their files as well. But you will see that the documentation from the phone company showing the phone records and text messages from both David and Camille especially for the months of November and December and January. And it's very, very important that you guys get this. As of November 26th, every phone call and every text from David's phone went through or originated from that number. That number. As of December 26th, every call from Camille's phone originated from or went through that phone number associated with Danny August Mason. And it's not a stretch. That is where the rabbit hole is now taking us. This mysterious phone number, every search we've done on it comes up nothing. Comes up with this person. And who is it? Don't know. Why? Why was every call from David and Camille, every text from David and Camille routed through a number that wasn't theirs? Why? Beginning to see the picture? This means that David was gone and or missing somewhere around, from what we can gather by his footprint. And I mean the footprints that can be verified. Not the typewritten notes on a laptop, not a typewritten email, because all of those can be faked. But what is tangible, which are the phone records, puts David missing after November 26th, puts Camille missing after December 25th. Or 15th, I'm sorry, December 15th. Or 16th. It's in the phone records, look it up. Find that interesting. So now we have Danny August Mason related to this and their disappearance in 2 ways. Now, we have also Dan Jr. lying about the packages. He says that they were there. He put them down December 28th. The neighbors, according to the police report, state they do not recall seeing these packages until January 10th. Now, the ME I spoke with stated when he saw the photos, he said that no way those bodies were dead for 3 weeks. He said his best guess, and I quote, as I've quoted over and over and over, was 4 to 7 days, 10 days at most. So if those packages were really not seen until January 10th, the bodies were discovered January 17th. That fits within the 7 to 10 day time frame perfectly. And we have also a check that was unaccounted for, and or why it was taken from his dad's account while his dad was out of country. This money, not Dan Sr.'s signature, by Dan Crowley Jr., taken from his dad's account for $50,000. Could be innocent, but I don't know. To me, it's suspicious. It should give the police at least a point of, wait a second, what was that about? They didn't bat an eye. Now, we have, here's the rabbit hole. Are we seeing a rabbit hole here? How they're all relating? Now, Dan Sr., the reason why I put his name up there is because I think his motive is he didn't want to lose another son. He'd lost David. There's nothing. He lost David. He lost his grandchild. He lost a daughter-in-law. And for him, and this happens all the time. So to me, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Dan Sr., of course, is not going to want to lose his other son. If his son were involved in this, I could easily see him covering. So what's his motive to cover for this one? He doesn't want to see him go away. What parent would? Most parents would do anything to keep their children out of prison. So I don't think that this is ill will on his part. I don't think that at all. If this turns out to be true, I don't think that it's done with malice on Dan Sr.'s part. I think he's trying to protect whatever family has left. So, here we go. We have phone records with the mysterious phone number to a Kimberly Layton. This is important, people. Every single phone call, every single text. Like I said, for David, it was November. For David, 11/26/2014. Routed through and originating from this phone number. For Kamel, it was December 16th, I believe, after that date. Routed through this phone number. Why? It's pretty interesting that there's a Kimberly L associated with Danny August Mason. There's a Kimberly Layton, whose phone number is the mysterious phone number, and who, doing a search on Kimberly Layton, yields zero information. What are we going to do with that? Here's another thing. Danny August Mason is also associated with someone by the name, I'll just use initials. What was his name? Oh yeah, I think it's that. Don't quote me on that one. I do know his first name begins with a T. Now this person has a law enforcement background. Beginning to see where the police are coming in on this? And this person has ties with David. We seeing it now? I hope so. And this person's background Quite interesting. Let's just say they're not the kind of person you want at your dinner table or your kid's birthday party. Not a nice person. So now we have the Apple Valley Police Department, who has bypassed and overlooked the fact that they cannot prove motive for David. They have no evidence whatsoever that proves David did it. We have David, who by the evidence they have given to us, both BCA and the Apple Valley Police Department, show that David was murdered, yet they cover that up. They will not address that. They do not see and refuse to acknowledge the ties of these people to David and their motives for this murder. Oh, the triple homicide. So they've lied, consistently lied. And now we have found out BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, has also manipulated data. The metadata is incorrect. Metadata manipulation. These are the people who are supposed to be solving the crime. And they, on purpose, put in wrong information on the photos. What in the hell are they covering up? Now we have the MEs, the medical examiner. Let me get this for you. Kamel's autopsy report. Reading it. Here we have. Let's go with the entrance wounds, the gunshot wounds of the head. We know she suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head. There are 3 bullet fragments with her blood. She's missing both hands. She is found lying next to the couch like this, on her stomach, next to the couch. Couch would be here, so you know that if her head were there prior to being placed on the ground, it would be here and not here. But anyway, what the hell, the police didn't want to look at that either. So she's like this, blanket covering her head. During the examination, here's what the ME writes. This is located at the edge of the remaining left parietal bone of the skull, 6 inches from the top of the shoulder. They're measuring from the top of the shoulder. Now she has a spine that is intact. Her spinal column is still there and intact, but they're going to measure 6.5 inches from the shoulder. I've never seen a report like this. And then they go 6 inches from the top of the shoulder and 1.5 inches left of the posterior midline. So that's the back of the head. Draw an imaginary line down the back of your head. Go 1.5 inches to the left. There's the entrance wound. It's not behind her ear. It's at the back of her head. And it's from back to front. It's the back of her head. Now we have the second gunshot wound. This is also located at the edge of the remaining left parietal bone of the skull, 1.5 inches from the top of the shoulder. Really? 1.5 inches from the top of it? It's in her neck. If you're going by their reports, it's in her neck. Oh my God. 1.5 inches from the top of the shoulder and 1 inch left of the posterior midline. Who was it? Was it Sean Wright or was it Robert Elliott that says that's called a double tap? Yeah, she was double tapped in the back of the head. And so there you have it. According to their writing of their reports, these entrance wounds were in her neck when you go through their 6.5 inches, which maybe that one, still doesn't work. And then 1.5 inches from the shoulder, it's in the neck when you measure all this stuff out on a cadaver. But what we do know is that she was shot twice in the back of the head. So what was she doing? Was she covering her head, trying to protect her head, cowering? Probably. And then they, quote unquote, double tapped her in the back of the head. Both hands are missing. There's no way in hell a dog is going to be able to get under her body, eat her hand, and then turn her body back over and position her this way. The Apple Valley wants you to believe that bullshit. And maybe if people are, they like fancy and fantasy thoughts, maybe that works for them. It's not factual. It's not evidence. The evidence points that her hands were missing prior to placement on that floor. And she also was in what I believe to be a further state of decomposition. We've gone through this a lot, and which is why I believe and have always believed she was killed first. Or no, I think I believed it. Yes, she was killed first, because it says that. Let me find the decom. She reveals most of the head and hands are most of the head and the hands are missing. The way they wrote this, it sounds like most of both are missing, but complete hands are missing and most of her head is missing. She reveals decompositional changes. There is extensive bloating, skin slippage, and discoloration of the body. Okay, they call it hers extensive bloating, which is really, she's into the not the early stages so much anymore. What do they say about David? Her moderate. Okay, that was the word that was escaping me. For David, it says early to moderate decomposition. So he still shows signs of early decomp. Kamel does not. What does Rania state? Let's see. Early to moderate decomp. So again, both David and Rania show early to moderate. Kamel is extensive bloating. So she's definitely well into the moderate stage of decomp. So you can imagine, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. She was obviously tortured. I think she was tortured. Did they take her hands out? We don't know any of this stuff. That's just it. We know her hands were missing before she was put in the position, so we know the dog didn't eat it, which means the person who killed them did it for her. It's a process of elimination, AVPD. If you can't figure that out by now, there's a little hint. She's lying on an arm that's missing a hand. The dog didn't eat it. She's missing all of the soft tissue, and including her larynx. So the laryngeal cartilage is gone. Everything is gone here. She's face down. How did the dog get to it? If this part of her head is still there, she's laying up against a sofa. There's a blanket over her head. How did Paleo eat that? He can't. He can't. This is not a Houdini dog. This doesn't exist. This damage was done to her prior to her being placed in that position. Same with Rania. Where's her arm? Where are the arm bones? Where are her hand bones? Where are their hand bones? Yes, they say in these reports that they found some bone fragments that resemble phalangeal bones, but they don't know. It's their best guess. But it's only a few. Where are the rest of them? So now we have this person who has ties to AVPD. We have these two working in cahoots. AVPD. This guy brings back to Danny. This person brings you back to Danny. $30 million brings you back to Danny. Sean Wright, he doesn't want to go to prison, and he's been a piece of shit asswork talking to a lot of us. He's kept his mouth shut lately. But I hold no love lost for this man. He's afraid he's going to go to prison, threatens David on social media. Cops don't do anything about it. We've got Dan Jr., who has a huge argument with David. David completely cuts ties with him. And there's he lies about packages being put on the doorstep. Cops don't think a thing of it. So here's the rabbit hole. And to me, folks, this is looking more like a big steaming pile of the truth doesn't matter to the police and to everybody involved. And I have contacted I believe it's a Pioneer Press who's out of Minnesota, Minneapolis with St. Paul or whatever. And I've contacted them and given them this evidence of the multiple blunt force trauma to David. I have shown them and sent them the links to the videos we did on the phone calls. And I didn't send them the information about the BCA and their manipulation of the metadata. But at this point, it doesn't matter. Dead silence. I contacted the New York Times on their report and what they wrote on this story. Who was it? Were they the ones who did Death of a Dystopian? I mean, total bullshit story. Crickets, people. Crickets. Crickets from them, from all of these people. The silence is deafening. Absolutely deafening. Now we have, what else am I thinking about? Okay, I'm going off on another tangent. I'll cover the footprints in a minute after we get done with this. So are we seeing where I'm going with this? Sean Wright, his motive is going to prison for tax evasion because what he feels David is going to reveal in his movie trailer, The Rise. Danny August Mason, his motive being what he feels he's being lost out on $30 million. Refuses to sign off on anything, stops all contact with David. There's one call, I think, that is placed to David's phone sometime in December, but again, that call is routed through that phone number. Not directly to David. It goes through this phone number. This person, and now we have Danny August Mason, who has a friend who's in law enforcement, who I believe also got him into Freemasonry. That's just a side note. I'm not sure that has anything to do with the case. Although knowing their history, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Don't know. We have one of his friends has ties to law enforcement. His best friend has ties to David. What are we going to do? Apple Valley's turning a blind eye. BCA, who's supposed to be investigating this, is lying themselves. And as far as the blood goes, it's convenient that every single piece of blood evidence that was tested and sent to the lab, let me put this caveat in there, because in the reports it does show that someone from BCA does say, hey, what do you want us to test? Do you want us to test this, this, and this? It comes back from the police department, no, we don't need to test that right now. Only test X, Y, and Z. Now, the parts that weren't tested, item number, I think the blood swab 30, was it 34, 31, whatever it is that's on the on the chair, the recliner, not tested. They were told, don't test that right now. Which anything that would have or has the possibility to be anyone else's blood is not tested. But it's pretty interesting and pretty convenient that every swab that was tested was all Kamel's blood. All of it. With the exception of the bullet fragment that contained Ranya's DNA and the knife that had the blood or DNA of all three of the victims. All three of them are missing body parts. All three of their blood or DNA is on the knife. The knife is ignored. It is excluded. It is not paid attention to. So one piece of evidence that they have that shows all of them came in contact with that knife. Yet the police don't find that important. Interesting. And so, what do we have left? What is this showing you? What it's showing me is that the BCA and the AVPD were in cahoots and or told by somebody, this mysterious person or entity, don't touch this. It's a murder-suicide, cover it up. We did the best we could. We sent in cleaners, whatever you want to call it. Now, They're obviously working together. They are obviously not investigating those who are associated with this crime. They instead say David is guilty of murder-suicide when David's body shows evidence of multiple blunt force trauma to his head. He didn't beat himself in the head. And then it shows where part of that scalp, that bone, that the skin was cut away. And I'm done with that shit too, people. There's a straight edge on that scalp, on that skin. You don't get that from ripping something. You don't get that from tearing something. That piece of skull, that piece of bone, and that skin was cut away from the rest of his head. What else could it be? I mean, what, you got surgical precision? You can just, okay, I'm gonna tear it along the dotted lines. Paleo can do that. I'm gonna go ahead and nip it and rip at this, and I'll tear a perfectly straight line. They know this. They know this. The ME knows this. But yet they all cover it up. They all ignore it. What does that tell you? That they are covering for a much bigger picture. This is why I'm saying it's not going anywhere. It's all gone down. Yeah, that's my version of a butthole. Here are the legs with a steaming pile of crap. The truth. That's how they view it. And this is what I'm saying. There's nothing else we can do. Our hands are tied. You know, we're people who aren't, I'm not in Minnesota. I have lived there in the past, but I'm not from Minnesota. There's nothing that, they don't give a shit about me. I'm just some person from another state that has no legal right to tell them to do anything. Their state doesn't care. Their entire government of the state of Minnesota doesn't care that the triple homicide and that the killers, whoever they are, if they are indeed these people and associated with these people, if that is the case, they don't care. They've let them run free. These people are all living their lives, being happy, while this family was slaughtered in their own home. Okay, on to the next part before I show you the little videos that Sophia put together regarding the footprints. She actually did an experiment using paint and stuff and putting footprints on the floor. And you'll see what those look like, and then you need to compare those with the photos. It's artwork, people. They're not bloody footprints. Okay, this is what I was working on, and I'm not going any further. Like I said, these are just more rabbit holes. But this is stuff I think you should probably think about. I was going through, what did we miss in the photos? When I realized that the metadata was wrong, I'm like, what else did we miss? First one I came up with, well, actually the moving skull pieces, and then the metadata. But the moving skull piece on that Quran page, what was the purpose of that? Why keep picking it up and moving, pick it up and moving? Was it the skull piece that was supposed to be the point of information on that photo? Or actually was it the Quran page and what was supposed to be shown in the letters and to what it said? And then you're supposed to be able to read a part of their scriptures and then deduce that David had flipped because of what you could read. Or the dog. I don't know. It just makes no sense. They moved that skull piece 3 times and took photos of it. No need for that. None. Number 2, there is no blood leading up to and away from these little prints in the middle of the floor, supposedly in the island in front of where the laptop was sitting on top of this island. So did they jump to that spot with bloody feet and land on their toes and then somehow manage not to slip and fall on their butts? Because blood is pretty slippery. That doesn't make sense. Where are the footprints leading away from? this is what I'm talking about. This entire staging of this scene was so poorly executed. The fact that the Apple Valley Police Department couldn't see that when they first walked in is phenomenal. Unless they knew ahead of time. They knew what they were walking into, so they created a narrative and stuck with it. And to hell with everybody else and the facts and the truth of the case. Truth doesn't matter. It's a pile of shit, remember? Number 3, the metadata. BCA is responsible for that. Their metadata is incorrect. And what you're going to be, if Sophia and Greg go through with the rest of the other last 3 on the part of the moving skull piece, what we were doing, we did parts 1 and 2, and then parts 3 was supposed to go over that. And if they go over that, they'll continue with that. Oh, what was I going to think? I lost the thought. So I get for jumping ahead of myself. I should have just said it. But that's where I was going. The metadata. Not only do we know it's incorrect and the timestamps are completely wrong, and the timestamps are input by BCA. They control that information. The timestamp on when the bodies were bagged and removed is, I always get this confused, so please listen to Sophia when she says this, but I think she has that the metadata states it's at like 2:30 in the morning, that they're taking photos of the bodies in the bag and the body bags as they're continuing this. Their timestamp says like 2:30, 2:45 in the morning. When the information from the police, the logging in and out, the medical examiner didn't even show up until midnight. Bodies were reported 11 and a half hours prior. She shows up at midnight and stays for 45 minutes only for 3 bodies. 45 minutes only. That tells me right there she had a narrative that she had to follow. Check off the boxes. Okay. Yeah, let me take a peek. Okay, yeah, they're dead. Put them in the bags. Let's go. That's about how much time you have. She didn't investigate. She didn't look. She didn't search the scene. She walked in, was handed a piece of paper, did what she had to do. Those photos then stated, this is at 2:30 in the morning, all of the reports, the signing in and out, said that she arrived at midnight, she left at 12:45 a.m. Metadata incorrect? Timestamp completely wrong. Ergo, a complete lie. Number 4, there's a video camera in the garage. Where are the other cameras and where was that footage stored? Now, a lot of people have said through the course of researching this, and I've heard other people actually bring this up, going, since David loved cameras and he filmed everything, and he knew what the government was about, wouldn't he have had cameras in his home? Clearly he did. There's a camera in the garage. It's turned to the side. Where's that footage? Police didn't find it. At least they don't say they have it. It seems mighty convenient that a Chris Klein, it actually was, I guess, the police got a call from a Chris Klein, shows up a month later, and that's when the mysterious bullet that killed David was found in the attic that was shot into the ceiling, and they have no photos of it prior. There's no photos of the bullet hole on the 17th, but it is found on the 18th of January. I mean, not 18th of January, I'm sorry, February. So, and they were in the attic. Chris Klein and who he was with, they say they went into the attic to look for the bullet. No. Who took the video cameras? Who took the footage? I bet you 10 to 1 there was video footage of what took place in that home. But it's gone now. It's gone. So these are things that were missed. And, because like I said, there are so many rabbit holes to this case. You can't keep up with it all. And the people who staged this is a piss poor job of staging. I mean, I've seen like teenagers who've done a better job when they've tried to cover up something they do. There are just no words. I have no more words left. Okay, we're gonna now finally, I'm gonna go over the video that Sophia put together about the footprints and how she proves that it's not blood. They aren't footprints in blood. And after that, I'll just say my final goodbyes.
This was my hand. I did my palm, the side of my palm, with my fingers down. I had paint on my knuckles and on my thumb. That is my palm print. I'm not sure what made those prints in that photo. Here's my prints when I stepped out of the thing, but I had to brace onto the wall right here so that I wouldn't kill myself because it was so slippery. Then I stepped on my toes to try to replicate, and then that's where I stopped, right there. These are my footprints. These are the, as you can see, I made several steps. I used blue finger paint. There's the paint right there that I stepped in. And here are my feet. As you can see, there's no way that David could have stepped in that blood and not had blood between his toenails and toes and everything else. Experiment done.
I also want to cover here, too, why we never completed the video on the latent prints. Sophia was going to be doing that video with me. However, when I contacted BCA and requested the latent prints that they pulled from the scene, especially the gun, because in their reports it states that there is a visible scar on that latent print. And I didn't know. I'm like going, can I see the latent print? They couldn't tie that latent print, I don't believe, to anybody. But is the visible scar on that print, is it due to a defect on the gun? Is it due to a scar on a person's hand? I don't know. And we'll never know now because they refused to release that photo. They sent me an email stating that that particular photo and the latent prints were not part of the case, were not part of the final decision-making process as to who was guilty, so therefore it's not part, it doesn't and won't be released as part of an FOIA. Without that, there's nothing to do a video on other than to point out the fact that they have a latent print with a quote-unquote visible scar, and they didn't follow up on that either. Convenient. So that's why that video was never done. Again, it's just running down another rabbit hole, and I'm done with rabbit holes. You know, life is too short and our time is too precious to keep chasing after every possibility. What could or could not have happened? What do we think happened? Or could this have happened? Or maybe that not. It happens far too much with this case. Nothing gets solved that way. What we have, though, as evidence is, oh gosh, it's phenomenal. It's more than most people would ever dream of. It's like a defense attorney's dream to have all of this information. But it goes nowhere if the powers that be don't want it to. And they state they don't want it to. Gummert stated that, and he was speaking on behalf of Reichskull, whatever, however you state his name, the captain of the Apple Valley Police Department, that they are content with their decision. They will not reopen the case, no matter the evidence presented to them. New evidence, old evidence, they said they do not care. Their words, not mine. They don't care, and they will not open the case. It is closed for good. What does that tell you? They're following their narrative. They have a script they were told, and they have to follow it, and they're going to follow it. So be it. I think we've all pointed out, everyone who has bled basically over this case by the amount of sweat they've poured over it. We have all shown that their narrative is incorrect, it's impossible, and David was also a victim of murder. What do you do? Not much we can do. Okay, with that being said, and I hope this covers everything, and I hope you guys explain why there's really no need at this point for me to continue. I mean, like I said, it's like every page of those reports contain some type of crap that we can easily prove is a lie. But it's not going to get anywhere. The evidence of the case, it stands by itself. David's innocent. If these are indeed their bodies, which sometimes with some of the information has led us down the rabbit hole that maybe they're not even dead. These are somebody else. Are these cadavers? Was this someone else? We don't know. But that again was another rabbit hole. But all I know is that if these truly are the bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania, they were all three brutally murdered. They were all three had body parts forcefully removed. And their murderers and their killers, the people responsible, are still at large, roaming free because the police and the BCA and the Minnesota state legislature doesn't give a damn. There you have it. I want to just say thank you to Dan Hennon. You have been tremendous in guiding me in a lot of ways when I first started my investigation on this case. You were very helpful in a lot of ways, and so thank you for that. And Greg, I know you and I have butted heads, and I'm sorry, bud, but you are dead wrong on the footprints. You're dead wrong. But a lot of the stuff, you have went out there and you were like a dog with a bone. And you would not let the people who tried to bully you into thinking David was guilty, you stuck to your guns and you're like, prove it. And they never did. That's admirable. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you for that as well. And Sophia, girl, I knew once things got straightened out and that mess was all settled, that you and I would make one hell of a team. And a lot of this stuff, I mean, yeah, I could have gotten some of it, but without your help, you've been tremendous, and I can't say thank you enough for all of the nights and the days and the odd hours where you've listened to me complain or you've been available to brainstorm and we've thrown stuff back and forth at each other. Again, thank you. You guys, all three of you, you've been amazing. And one person who, she's no longer part of the group, but I truly feel I owe her a huge debt of gratitude, because if it wasn't for Tina Timberman, I would never have stuck with this case from the beginning. She got me through a lot of crap that went on at the beginning, and she's the one who said, don't let go, don't stop. So, girl, thank you. I think with your tenacity and actually the tenacity of everyone, all of you, Dan, Greg, Sophia, and Tina, all of us, we've proven the case is a fraud. We've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, I don't know how many times I have to say this, that David was murdered. This family was slaughtered. They weren't just murdered, they were slaughtered. An innocent 5-year-old girl brutalized. But the police don't care. 5-year-old's life doesn't mean anything to them. Why are the families so silent? To me, it makes sense. If the government of Minnesota or a higher government, whatever the case may be, went to them, and again, this is speculation, down another rabbit hole, but the only thing that makes sense as to why they would be quiet is they were told to be quiet. And they don't want to lose anybody else. They've lost 3 members of their family. 3 beautiful people this world no longer has. And it's too bad. It's just too bad. But thank you. And I won't be back unless something new comes up in this case, and unless the police decide to reopen it, which they won't. They've already emphatically stated, as you have seen and or heard with the video I did from Gummer, straight out of his mouth, where they said they're not going to. I see no reason to continue. I'm done with chasing everything, every little thing, because it doesn't matter. Some things just don't matter. Like, and I'm throwing this out there as an example. This has nothing to do with anybody or anything, but it doesn't matter if a piece of clothes went from the closet onto the bed, onto the floor. That's all part of the investigation process. Those who come in to investigate a scene, they rip apart everything. That's their job. So of course things in that sense will be moved, and it's to be expected. And so I'm not, those are the types of things where I'm saying I'm not going to chase those anymore. I'm not going to even try to discuss that anymore. Just because it leads you nowhere. And it is what it is. It's part of the process. Accept it or don't. But anyway, so thanks. And I hope the things I've brought to your attention has been helpful. And again, let me reiterate this. I am not accusing or saying anyone is guilty of murder. I am saying that there are people who cannot be excluded. That's up for the police. That's their job. And I think we've all earned their paychecks. So get off your lazy asses, AVPD, and get your job done. So it's been a good ride. It's been interesting. So God bless, and I hope you guys have a fantastic year.